विचित्रशालीना यायावरशिलोञ्चनम् विप्रवृत्तिश्चतुर्धेयम् श्रेयसी च उत्तरोत्तरा वार्ता विचित्रशालीना यायावरशिलोञ्चनम् विप्रवृत्तिश्चतुर्धेयम् श्रेयसी च उत्तरोत्तरा वार्ता विचित्रशालीना यायावरशिलोञ्चनम् विप्रवृत्तिश्चतुर्धेयम् श्रेयसी च उत्तरोत्तरा विचित्रशालीना यायावरशिलोञ्चनम् विप्रवृत्तिश्चतुर्धेयम् श्रेयसी च उत्तरोत्तरा वार्ता विचित्रशालीना यायावरशिलोञ्चनम् विप्रवृत्तिश्चतुर्धेयम् श्रेयसी च उत्तरोत्तरा Word to word meaning. Varta, the occupational means of livelihood for the Vaishya, agriculture, cow protection and trade. Vichitra, various types. Shalina, livelihood achieved without effort. Yayavara, going to the field to beg for some paddy. Sheila, picking up the grains left in the field by the proprietor. Unchanam, picking up the grains that have fallen from bags in shops. Vipravrittihi, the means of livelihood for the Brahmanas. Chaturdha, four different kinds. Iyam, this. Shreyasi, better. Cha, also. Uttara Uttara, the latter compared to the former. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada. Translation. As an alternative, a Brahmana may also take to the Vaishya's occupational duty of agriculture, cow protection, or trade. He may depend on that which he has received without begging. He may beg in the paddy field every day. He may collect paddy left in a field by its proprietor, or he may collect food grains left here and there in the shops of grain dealers. These are four means of livelihood that may also be adopted by Brahmanas. Among these four, each of them in succession is better than the one preceding it. So, purport. A Brahmana is sometimes offered land and cows in charity, and thus for his livelihood, he may act in the same way as a Vaishya by cultivating land, giving protection to cows, and trading of his surpluses. A better process, however, is to pick up grains from a field or from a dealer's shop without begging. So we'll read the translation and purport of next four verses. Translation verse number 17. Except in a time of emergency, lower persons should not accept the occupational duties of those who are higher. When there is such an emergency, of course, everyone but the Kshatriya may accept the means of livelihood of others. Purport. The occupational duty of a Brahmana should not be accepted by persons in lower social orders, especially Vaishyas and Shudras. For example, an occupational duty of the Brahmana is to teach Vedic knowledge. But unless there is an emergency, this professional duty should not be accepted by the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or Shudras. Even a Kshatriya cannot accept the duties of a Brahmana unless there is an emergency. And then, even if he does so, he should not accept charity from anyone else. Sometimes Brahmanas protest against our Krishna consciousness movement for creating Brahmanas from Europeans, or in other words, from Lechas and Yonas. This movement, however, is here supported in Srimad Bhagavatam. At the present moment, society is in a chaotic condition and everyone has given up the cultivation of spiritual life, which is especially meant for the Brahmanas. Because spiritual culture has been stopped all over the world, there is now an emergency. And therefore, it is now time to train those who are considered lower and condemned, so that they may become Brahmanas and take up the work of spiritual progress. The spiritual progress of human society has been stopped, and this should be considered an emergency. Here is solid support from Narad Muni of the movement known as Krishna consciousness. Verse 18 and 20, translation. In time of emergency, one may accept any of the various types of professions known as Rita, Amrita, Mrita, Pramrita, and Satyanrita. But one should not at any time accept the profession of a dog. The profession of Uncha Shila, collecting grains from the field, is called as Rita. Collecting without begging is called as Amrita. Begging grains is called as Mrita. Tilling the ground is called as Pramrita. And trade is called Satyanrita. Engaging in the service of low-grade persons, however, is called Shvavritti, the profession of the dogs. Specifically, Brahmanas and Kshatriyas should not engage in low and abominable service of Shudras. Brahmanas should be well acquainted with all Vedic knowledge, and Kshatriyas should be well acquainted with the worship of demigods. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chaturvarnyam Maya Shrishtam Gunakarma Vivagashah. The four divisions of human society were created by the Supreme Lord according to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them. Formerly, the principle of dividing human society into four sections, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, was strictly followed. But because of gradual neglect of the Varnashram principles, Varna Sankara, population developed, and the entire institution has now been lost. In this age of Kali, practically everyone is a Shudra, Kalau Shudra Sambhava. And finding anyone who is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya is very difficult. Although the Krishna consciousness movement is a movement of the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, it is trying to re-establish the divine Varnashram institution. For without this division of society, there cannot be peace and prosperity anywhere. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साधवैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So these four verses we have taken together, they deal with the topic of Varnashrama. So Varnashram is very difficult to find as it is given in the Shastras. So, but still it is mentioned in the Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada also said Varnashram is important. So, even in a modified form or in a partial form, Varnashram actually helps a person to get elevated to the mode of goodness. So elevating to the mode of goodness is also a very good thing for practicing devotion. But this Varnashram, how to implement this particular age is very difficult task. So Krishna says that Chaturvarnyam Maya Shashtam Guna Karma Vibhagashah. He says that these four varnas and ashramas are made by me according to guna and karma, according to the activities and qualities of a person. So whether we recognize them or not, these four kind of people will always be born, irrespective of the age in which we are. Whether we are in Kali Yuga, Satyuga, in any Yuga, there are four kind of people who are born by nature. But even though they are born with different natures and qualities, these qualities require training. So there are different samskaras given in the Shastra. There are different teachings need to be taught to them in the Gurukul. And then they will be called as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. Without training, it is said by Prabhupada that Kalo Shudra Sambhava. All of the people are Shudra if you don't train them, even though they may have qualities belonging to a particular Varna and the ashram. So this Varnashram is a very difficult task, even for the devotee communities to implement it. So what is the need of Varnashram for a devotee? One may ask, I am already actually doing the devotional service. So what is the use of Varnashrama? Varnashram uh, comes in handy and is very useful for a person who is not very surrendered and he is not in contact with a pure devotee. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in 11th canto, he says that if a person has association of a pure devotee, he may not actually follow the rules of Varnashram, only those rules which the Guru tells he needs to follow. Other rules are optional, so he may or may not follow them. But if a person is not in contact with a pure devotee, if a person is in contact with a person who is mixed devotion or gunanibhut, gunadibhut bhakti, that person has to follow Varnashram very strictly. Otherwise, it is very difficult to progress. So most of the people in the world, we see association is lacking. A pure devotee association is lacking. That's why some form or the other Varnashram has to be established. So this Varnashram, so here it is written that in case of emergencies, a Brahmana may take the profession of a Vaishya. Okay, so this is a emergency duty. So emergency duty, Prabhupada writes that this age is actually emergency. So in this age, no actually ashram is actually properly followed. So this is the emergency time only. And Prabhupada says that's why we are giving initiation to even the lower class people if they are having qualities to become Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Okay. So this emergency duty is actually very much applicable in this particular age. So Prabhupada writes in this purport it is said that a Brahmana can take a profession of Vaishya. So why Brahmana cannot take a profession of Kshatriya directly in emergency? So sequence wise, below Brahmana there is a Kshatriya, but it is advised for a Brahmana not to take up the profession of Kshatriya, but to take a profession of Vaishya. So Vaishya is a non-violent life, and it is very simple life, and in relation with cows and Mother Earth. That's why it is simple living and high thinking. So it is very much conducive for cultivating spirituality, spiritual values. That's why Brahmana is told to skip the Kshatriya dharma and directly go to Vaishya dharma in case of emergency. In case for some reason or the other he is not able to do it, he may take sword in hand. So the Kshatriya is a third option for a Brahmana in cases of emergency. So similarly, for Kshatriya, the first option is to take up duty of Vaishya, not try to become a Brahmana directly. This is again, Vaishya is very good for cultivation of spiritual values, even for a Kshatriya. So you first become purified, and then you can take up activities of Brahmanas also in case of emergency. But all the higher classes are advised in case of emergency, try to come to the level of Vaishya, the cow, agriculture, and commerce. In case you are not able to deal with the cows and do agriculture, you may trade. But it is considered trading is inferior to directly dealing with cows and doing agriculture in the fields. So these are the emergency duties. Vaishya can take up the profession of a Shudra. And Shudra can do, if he does not find a proper master to serve, a Shudra can do some menial work like making baskets and mats and other things a Shudra can do. So these are the uh, prescriptions given by the Shastra in case of emergency. Okay. So here it is said that even if you take the occupation of a Vaishya, uh, it is better you take whatever actually comes to you without begging. If nothing comes, you have to beg from door to door. But if that is not possible, you go to the field and whatever remaining grain is there in the field, you just take that. Or when the marketplace is there, in marketplace they actually throw away some grains or whatever is left at the end of the day. You collect whatever is edible and what you can eat, and you take it home. So the doing your own agriculture and growing everything is more respectable, but it is less humbling. More humbling is actually begging from door to door. So it is said that actually begging is also good for somebody. He feels that he cannot maintain his practice by doing his own agriculture. Okay, so that's why the sequence is given like that. Okay, so Brahmanas actually should beg from door to door. So we also see Prabhupada said that Madhukari is not practical in this age. So people think that these are beggars. So Prabhupada said that actually do book distribution. So this is preaching. At the same time, you get some money and funds for the temple and the organization also. And we also have experience that book distribution is very humbling. It is as good as begging only. So you go from trains, you go in the shops during book distribution. We try to actually, people try to bargain. At least 150 book, try to reduce 10 rupees. So you may be something big in your life. So you may be doctor, you may be engineer. You are bargaining for 10 rupees for a book. So you may get a thought that I could have earned more than this easily. So I am actually distributing 20 books. And that is like 2,000, 3,000 rupees. The profit may not be there also because it is charitable. But this is not about profit or making money also solely. You are giving transcendental knowledge to that person and you are getting purified of your false ego. So that is actually why book distribution is considered as such an important thing. So this humbling profession is missing if you actually do not engage in these kind of activities. So collecting funds, book distribution, these things are actually humbling to the ego. Okay. So we have replaced doing madhukari with these things. So that is the emergency duty. So Krishna in Uddhav Gita also speaks in detail about these things, that what is emergency duty and how should a person follow it. So how does common public understand this Varnashram? So for common public, Varnashram rules under the guidance of a devotee are very much applicable. Without guidance of a devotee, Varnashram at present is very difficult to understand and implement. So there was a speaker, I think 2 week back. He spoke about Daivi Varnashram and Varnashram according to Sanatan Dharma. So what is the difference? Daivi Varnashram and the Varnashram according to Sanatan Dharma? Yes. So Sanatan Dharma speaks of Varnashram, the rules and regulation as given in scriptures. And Devi Varnashram also follow scriptural rules, but with Krishna in the center. So if it is not favorable for serving Krishna, the rules of Varnashram can also be modified by a guru. So it is flexible. So Daivi Varnashram is flexible for the sake of Krishna. So we do not compromise the rules of Varnashram for anything other than for serving Krishna. If it does not deal with serving Krishna, you have to follow as it is given in the scripture. But if Krishna's service is actually getting hampered, you should actually modify the rules. So who decides this? A guru, a pure devotee should guide. So Daivi Varnashram, the guru and Krishna are at the center. And the rules of Varnashram can be modified. That's why it is called as Daivi Varnashram. Otherwise, modifying rules of Varnashram is considered as strictly prohibited, not allowed. Okay. So in current age, nobody can follow these rules which are given strictly in the Varnashram Dharma in the scriptures. So everybody should follow an example of a devotee or a guru. So Prabhupada writes, that's why our Krishna consciousness movement actually is training people to become Brahmanas, even if they are not born as Brahmanas. But training actually can bring out these qualities. And this is an emergency duty. So this is an obligation for us to actually make people Brahmana so that other people can at least follow Varnashram rules, though they may or not become pure devotees in one life. Okay. But there should be at least some level of sanity, Prabhupada used to say. Without Varnashram, a human being is as good as animal. Okay. So there are Varnashram rules, who should behave what way. So these kind of rules actually need to be followed under the guidance of a devotee. So all things considered, so Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita 15.15 that ultimately everything is actually to understand Krishna only. Right? So सर्वस्य चाहम हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्त स्मृति ज्ञान अपोहनम च वेदेश्च सर्वेर अहम एव विद्यो वेदांत कृत वेदविद एव चाहम. So I have created the Vedas. I am the knower of Vedas, and ultimately after reading Vedas, you should understand me only. So if ultimately this Varnashram duty does not lead to devotion to Krishna or love of the Godhead, they are useless. It says, धर्मस्वानुष्ठिता पुंसा विश्वक्सेन कथासुया न उत्पादयति यतिरतिम श्रम एव हि केवलम. If you follow all the rules and regulations of scriptures and everything, and at the end you do not develop love or attachment to serving Krishna, it is shrama eva hi kevalam. It is unnecessary. You are actually carrying the burden of heavy work, like as. So it is said that somebody who is actually completely mad or foolish, he works very hard just to meet the needs of day-to-day life. So these day-to-day needs can be met by anybody. Even the animals get to eat, and they also get a place to sleep. So what is the difference in the human being and them? So a human being can inquire about Krishna. So that is the difference. So otherwise, these Varnashram and other things do not hold any meaning in themselves. So Varnashram, the whole and soul, actually the aim is one should develop attachment to serving Krishna. So in devotion, there are, we say that Brahmana should follow Patan Patan, Yajan Yajan. Okay. So giving charity, taking charity, these are the 6 professions for a Brahmana. Then it is said that Kshatriya should be Tejo Dhriti. So he should be actually very courageous. Ishwara Bhava, Yuddhecha Apalayanam. So he should not run away from the battlefield. Then Vaishya, it is said that Vaishya is actually, yes, so he actually has Krishi, Goraksha, Vanijyam. Out of this, Krishi, Goraksha are superior to Vanijya or commerce. And Vaishya has a natural tendency to earn money. So he does not become satisfied with earning. So earning more and more is actually a bona fide duty of Vaishya. Only thing is that he is earning more, keeping Krishna in the center so that he can actually give charity and donations. So that is the aim. And then finally there is a Shudra. Shudra actually serves all the 3 above classes. So Shudra actually has a more servant opportunities. So he can serve more because his actually occupational duty in itself is told as he is a servant to all other three classes. So why Shudra actually is considered low? He is not low in one sense. Only thing is that he is not qualified to understand scriptures directly, being in mode of ignorance. But if he actually serves all three classes, he actually can progress very rapidly also. So Shudra is advised, na ati manita. Don't become dissatisfied thinking that you are low. You just serve, actually a Shudra will progress very fast. And if he becomes humble, na ati manita is actually you should not consider yourself as very great and humbly serve the other three classes. This humility is very difficult to achieve for somebody who is a Brahmana or a Kshatriya. But Shudra, if he accepts that actually I am the servant of all other three classes, it comes naturally to him. So that is his psychophysical nature also. So every class has advantages and disadvantages. It is not that this is superior and this is inferior. So as far as progressing in spiritual life, all classes have equal opportunities if they follow the rules of Varnashram properly. So that sense, it is not that it is discriminating. So this caste system and Varnashram system has gained a bad name, mainly because of misinterpretation for the why the actually Varnashram system is like that. In the name of actually becoming one or making everybody equal, there was a rise of communism also. So what is communism? So they say that the state is actually the center and everybody should serve the state or the country. So country is an artificial boundary. So the God has not given the boundaries of countries also. So this artificial understanding that country is the highest actually does not make a person completely purified. After some time, if he actually transmigrates to another country, so then his goal of life is only lost. He will be lost and aimless in his life because he had made something which is temporary as the goal of his life. So somebody may become a citizen of USA if the country was everything. So now why is he actually struggling? So he has changed the country itself. Right? So these temporary things cannot be the goal. So communism is failure. Why? You cannot keep something which is temporary as the goal of your life. So that's why Krishna and the spiritual values, Krishna is the actually master of everybody. So if he is kept as the goal, then a person can progress and there will be meaning in life. So many people struggle in the world without a meaning. So most important question, what is the most important question one should ask? Hmm? Yes. Yes. A person should ask why, not what, how, where. So all these are details. Why you are doing something is the most important question. So many people at the end of the life realize actually they don't know why they are actually doing some things. Okay. So this why question, if you actually answer it first, then all other questions are answered very easily. So this question, many people don't realize that it is very important. At the very end of life or when they get in trouble, they actually think, why am I doing this? What am I doing here? So suddenly there is actually realization that they are at the wrong place and doing the wrong things. So this why question is the most important. Okay. So the scriptures speak about why first, and then they give the details of the process. Okay, so then why you should do, afterward they will tell how you should do, and then they will tell the rules and regulations. So in our Vaishnava scriptures, what is the first thing? There is a sambandha. What is the sambandha? So who you are, who Krishna is, who is the Supreme Lord, and what is your relationship. And then we understand, so why we should serve Krishna. Then we understand how. So how is actually Abhideya. And then you get what. So what will you achieve? So basically you get love of Godhead. So prayojana. But until unless the sambandha is proper, so everything is useless. So Prabhupada, that's why I used to say that You are not the body, you are the soul. So this actually seems to be very irrelevant kind of speaking. So Arjuna is asking Krishna, so how could I kill my relatives, my gurus and other things? And Krishna does not answer directly. He says that you are not the body, you are the soul. So it may seem that the question is something else and the answer is something else. No, until unless you understand who you are and why you are doing some things, you cannot answer the lower questions properly. That's why he first tells that you first understand that you are not the body, you are the soul. And then he tells how, because you are soul, you have some relationship with Krishna. That's why whatever Krishna desires, you should follow all those things. So Krishna has given some religious principles. Kshatriya dharma is given by Krishna, so you should follow that. So until unless this basic understanding is there, this discussions of Varnashram, relative religions, equality on the material platform, they actually are meaningless. So that's why the Vedas actually speak of different things, but Prabhupada always used to speak about body and soul only. Because until and unless this is very clear and fixed in the mind of a person, all other Vedic discussions and other things actually do not actually appeal to a person, because there is no actually ultimate goal for following all these things. Okay, so this goal is very important. So that's why Prabhupada used to speak about body and soul so much. So this body and soul conception. So recently, actually, I met with many friends. So the doctors usually, the body and soul concept is never taught to anybody. So soul is not a word which comes anywhere in the education. So as soon as you speak of soul, it is superstition. So that's what a general understanding is, because our education is atheistic. So anywhere you speak of a soul, it becomes a very you can say a taboo subject. So you should not speak of soul when you are speaking among the educated class. But until and unless you actually accept that there is a soul and afterlife, there is no meaning why you are actually living this life and following so many rules. So there is nothing like a afterlife. There is nothing like a fruit for the karmas. So nobody is there who can punish you. So why you should be moral in this life? So even the morality does not actually stand. It cannot withhold. If you actually do not understand that there is afterlife, there is a soul, there is a soul which is separate from the body. So because this education is lacking, that's why a society will gradually also become very immoral. Okay, not even the basic morality will be maintained, let alone the spirituality, pure devotion, and other things. The soul and body concept is basic for a person to be called as human being and a moral person also. So that's why it is being stressed so much that you should accept that there is a separate soul apart from the body. So this is the whole spectrum which speaks of Varnashram, which is a practical thing in the material world, and the soul body education, that is a very sublime knowledge that is discussed by pure devotees and in the spiritual circles. So that whole spectrum Prabhupada actually speaks of. Okay. So we'll stop here. So anybody has any question, anything, any questions? हरे कृष्णा। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। हाँ? रुद्र का? हाँ? What question? Yes, 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 yes,
People say that it's not practical,
yes,
it cannot be implemented.
yes,
Um, even Devi Varnashram also,
yes,
we are doing centered around Krishna.
yes,
And there are many chances that we may lose the pure devotion service.
Yes.
And the pure, we cannot focus on the pure devotion service also.
Mhm.
And simultaneously, something is not practical also.
Yes.
And they say that Varnashram Dharma is not practical.
Yes.
Please
Yes.
throw light on this.
Yes. So he is saying that the Varnashram, when we speak of Varnashram and Devi Varnashram, even among the devotees, if we actually tell about Varnashram, they say that even this Devi Varnashram with Krishna in the center is very difficult to follow. If we try to follow, sometimes our devotional practices get affected. So, what is the solution? So, yes, just like we discussed, Varnashram rules are to be followed under the guidance of authority or a pure devotee who has already fixed Krishna in his heart. And he actually is flexible. Flexible meaning, Prabhupada used to sometimes tell some rules to some person. He won't tell those same rules to another person according to his capacity. So why all the rules of Varnashram are not actually told to everybody who is actually following devotional practices? Because the capacity to do all these things is very limited. And who actually decides who can do what? A person who is actually authority or who is guiding him. So we should not actually give a common booklet of Daivi Varnashram for everybody. So everybody cannot follow everything given in that Daivi Varnashram booklet also. This is customized. Customized meaning you should call or ask your counselor or authority, or directly you can ask your guru also, the initiating guru. Yeah. So this is not all one size fits all. Very difficult to follow in the Kali Yuga. So it is said that anything you try to follow in Kali Yuga, you will get diverted from devotional service. Means only the chanting and four regulative principles, that much is also such a big thing. Anything additional you try to add to that, something gets out. So the capacity in Kali Yuga is so less. That's why as a person matures, more and more rules are told to him. But before he becomes fixed in the basic practices of devotion, other rules are not added. So how to go about it? That actually is the expertise of a guru. So it is said that uh, Prabhupada used to actually, just like he used to advise differently to different people, does not mean that Devi Varnashram is not standard thing. It is standard, but not all the things will be done at a time by everybody. But at the end, a person can follow all the rules and also maintain his devotion. That stage will be reached in due course of time. That stage is also possible to reach. So, but for Kali Yuga, it is a stepwise process and it is under the guidance of authority only. Yes. Yes.
That is uh, our inclination. Your tendency to, for example, I'm a musician. You sing for Krishna. There is a center around Krishna. But by doing that, there is a tendency that there are already conditions also. We might be carried away with that. We lose the mainstream of pure devotion service. There is a chance. And now and then, as Prabhuji may explained, now and then we need a guidance guru in the Devi Varnashram system. And how and when, and it's a practical sense also, there is some challenges. And the main thing is they may lose the mainstream of performing pure devotion service. There is some check and balance systems has to be there. That's what Prabhuji is
Yes.
explaining. You know,
Yes.
whenever we grow gradually, accordingly we may take guidance, and without guidance we may not be fixed in the pure devotion service.
Yes. We call it as Yukta Vairagya in devotion. So it is not that these things cannot be done. Whatever your nature is, it can be used. But the Yukta Vairagya, what is Yukta and Vairagya? That is to be told by authority. So a person may like astrology. He may get carried away by astrology so much that the devotion may become secondary. So anytime you actually like or want to do something, you have to take a guidance also, because it is Vedic. Astrology is Vedic, but devotion is superior to all the formulas of Vedas. So you have to see what is your capacity. In Kali Yuga, the capacity is lacking. That is known, means that is their Shastric statement only. So how to best use your capacity and prioritize bhakti? That Yukta Vairagya thing, actually authority has to guide in the beginning at least. Prabhupada, for example, one devotee was there who were painting for Prabhupada. Prabhupada said paint, and the Krishna and other photos he told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they came to Prabhupada and said that there is a course for painting for 2 years, 3 years, something. So should we do that? He said, no need to do. He said, actually, our process is not actually learning things. Our process is crying for Krishna to do things, and he will actually inspire you to do it. At the same time, some another person who was doing a PhD and he was leaving it and coming to devotion, he said, no, you should complete. So why is speaking different things to different people? It is not he speaking different things to different people. He is seeing what capacity the person has, and whether he will get deviated if he goes too much into it. That's why he is actually speaking different ways to different people.
Sorry to just want to know that because Jiva has some swabhava, like when say Varnashrama, but Parodharma is bhakti. So sometimes because this swabhava will help him to practice bhakti nicely. So he's inspired. Okay, you know it's like swimming with a maybe uh, hold on and then he can swim. But somebody who is so much into devotion service, then he can no need of getting his swabhava to be attached and just practice bhakti like that. Maybe the person is guided whether
Yes.
he should.
Yes. So Swabhava is not against bhakti. Bhakta, a pure devotee, also has his Swabhava in relation to Krishna. Not all pure devotees are same. It is not that everybody is actually fixed caste is there and every pure devotee will have this Swabhava, because Krishna has actually different pure devotees serving in different moods. That's why Swabhava in itself is a variety of spiritual world. So we should not try to negate it. It gets purified by the guidance of a guru. So we are not against the swabhava of a person. And we also don't think that the swabhava will completely get destroyed when you become a pure devotee. So a person may be actually liking scriptures and he may be Brahminical in nature and he may be doing many services because of Guru Maharaj has told. Does not mean that if he actually still hankers for reading scriptures more, he is wrong. That may be there. He actually has a nature, but he actually can prioritize things according to the order of the Guru. So that's why he's beyond modes. Okay, so that actually Guru's guidance is actually the main factor. The theoretically understanding these things does not help a lot. It has some help, so you can ask queries and you can clarify things. Okay. But Guru's actually guidance actually helps us more. Okay. The details may sometimes confuse a person who is not surrendered. A person who is humble, he can read everything and he can actually understand it in proper perspective. A person who is not surrendered and humble, he may read the same things and he may get deviated also. That's why the qualification for reading is a person has to be Brahmana. The scriptures are not allowed to be read by anybody else. And there is some qualification for understanding scriptures in proper perspective also. And that's why Prabhupada's commentary actually repeatedly speaks certain things, though it may not be there in the translation also, because it is a counter for misunderstanding the statement. So he repeats the 3 4 times the same thing in the purport, a single purport also. So Prabhupada actually the genius is that even a person who is not qualified to understand the scripture, he will not misunderstand it. So he actually writes it many times so that you don't misunderstand what is written. So it actually sometimes seems to be repetitive. So, but the scriptures are made available by mercy of Prabhupada to everybody, irrespective of qualification, provided that you read the whole thing along with purport. If you try to skip the purport, there is a danger that you will misunderstand it. So that's why it should be read as it is. So you should not try to skip through it. Uh, so even Maharaj also says. So Maharaj in Vidyapit, he always speaks of this the pastime of this. Balramji actually, yes, killing Ro Maharsham Sutta. So why Maharaj actually speaks of it repeatedly? That scripture reading is good, provided that you are very humble. If that point is missing, you should not read scripture at all. So very destructive, and it is counterproductive also. So that's why adhikara for scripture reading was given by mercy of Prabhupada, because Prabhupada had written purports in that particular way. Okay, but we should not think that we are qualified. That's why we are reading. Reading scriptures in Kali Yuga, almost nobody is qualified. But Prabhupada's way of writing, so that is founder Acharya. So that is the power of Prabhupada, that everybody can read these books. But we should be very careful not to skip in order to read very fast. You read just everything, whatever Prabhupada writes, the speed does not matter. So if you read it repeatedly, you will not misunderstand anything in the scripture. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. हरी हरी. नो, पता नहीं उसको बटन नहीं है बोल रहे.